those of you who don't know me, my name is Toda. I'm PDF developer, engineer, PDF enthusiast. I'm actually working in PDF Association on various TWGs to move standards a little bit more forward. I'm also participating in ISO process, so I like standards, right? And I'm going to talk to you about interoperable document-based electronic signatures. So that's something what we at Foxit are working on. A little bit of information about the marketplace we are actually talking about, because it's important that may lay down a foundation for our later conclusions. So in 2021, the electronic signature market was worth $3 billion US worldwide. Out of that, roughly half or less than a half, 1.3 billion, has just happened in United States. Projected revenue in this segment is 4 billion in 2022. We're expecting growth to 35 billion US in 2029. So that gives us 36% annual growth revenue between 2022 and 29. The growth, 34%, we already seen in 2020. So it's a significant growing market, and that needs to be addressed. Based on data you believe in, the adoption of electronic signature solutions is cutting down the cost by 80%. And we also have data that shows that people or organizations are spending around half of the money on software, and then hardware services are equally following. The key factors for market growth are improved security, operational efficiency, and seamless workflow, right? So it's really important to address this market properly. Okay, it's fair to say that we got into this position by legal acquisition of concept of electronic signatures. Back in 2000, almost everywhere in the world, the legal concept starting to show up. In US, Europe, and even India adopted the IT Act in 2000. So we did have this legal construct that allows us to use electronic signature in legal concept. Very quickly afterwards, technical people around PDF adopted the technical concept of digital signature in PDF 1.3, it was in 2000. And now it's very important to mention that the concept of electronic or digital signature in legal documents is a bit different to what we know in PDF or in technical standards. They are very vague. The legal documents are very vague about what technical construct has to be or shall be used when addressing the electronic signatures. But people in PDF world, our experts, believe that the digital signature as a technical concept is the right way of addressing the things. And it was introduced in 2000, which was very, very quickly. And afterwards, we heard in a lot of talks that other relevant standards were showing up, like PADES, and also we addressed a lot of interesting things in ISO 30000-2 regarding signatures, and we still have a couple of extensions and changes in our standards via these extensions, ISO 30001 and 30002. And these are in development. They would be published very soon, and they reflect the latest discoveries in the security field. So we are adopting new algorithms, new hash algorithms, and so on. We don't know what's coming next, of course, but we as a community should be very active in researching the area of security and just bringing up those ideas to the standard. To quickly recap what actually signing means. What is the use case? So there is very obvious use case. Everybody in this room probably did already. So that's called self-signing. So I receive a document, or I create a document, I sign it, I send it to someone. Easy. Or slightly different variations. Someone prepares a document for me, sends it to me, I sign it, send back. Then, of course, multiple parties could be involved in the whole process. Could be a little bit more difficult, requires a little bit of more round of editing process. Let's say two parties are trying to get a contract done. So few editing process, but at the end of the day, PDF is born, is signed by both parties, and there you go. There are more advanced features or more advanced use cases. Corporates may require signing based on policies, different type of policies, different authentication methods, and so on and so on. We know some signing on behalf of someone, signing in front of notaries, and there are less obvious features we might not use, we might not see as a problematic or as a part of these workflows, but you can easily imagine in real world that someone is actually canceling the process. During the process of signing, we are canceling, we are withdrawing signature. We are trying to do signing in parallel. That all has to be captured via these workflows. Conceptually, what signature actually means, it is capturing the intent, right? The signer basically says, yeah, I agree. Back in old days, it could have been just, raising a hand, saying I agree, or easy handshake, right? To capture the intent, we need 3 steps to do. We have to record the intent. We have to somehow record that really happened, right? We have to have the actual contract in front of us, so that would be our document, and we have to have a proof that it really happened. So again, back in the days, you would want to have a witness who observed the handshake, right? Technically, in physical world, that's all done via wet signature. So you get a paper, you seal it with a wax seal, for example, you pin it together so nobody enters or sneaks in another page, and you use ink to sign on a certain place. In our world, digital world, we use the technical concept of digital signature. So there is a certificate. Certificate contains a public and private key. We have a ledger of trust between these. We are hashing the document. We are signing via the private and public key infrastructure. We may even encrypt the document, and we are recording all the informations in audit trail, so-called audit trail. So whatever happened during the process. Implementations look at this from a different perspective. Having a certificate is a cumbersome thing to do. Implementing digital signatures is problematic. It's complicated. Certificates comes with a cost, because you have to trust the authority that issues the certificate to yourself. And therefore, people start thinking, well, if this is so complicated and is so expensive, and if actually the wet signing still works, why don't I print, sign, and scan? And I'm done, right? I don't need any of that math concept that digital signature is described by. This is actually the description from Wikipedia. So try to tell your ma'am what she's doing, okay? So by adopting the idea of print and sign and scan, it appears as if we don't really care about the authentication. We don't really care who does that, right? We believe that the integrity is untouched. We don't believe that the person during the scanning would actually add another page, right? And we are not expecting to go to court to prove that it happened. But in reality, of course, we all care. And applications are trying to hide the complexity of digital signatures in their implementations. I'm talking about the good ones, not about the bad ones, right? And digital signature should always be used under the hood as a technical concept. So certificate is used, and implementations are doing it in a way that they actually use vendor certificate, and they use all the data available to them to prove that you signed in their accounting or cloud system or whatever. So they would be able to prove that it was you who did it with their own certificate. So now we are coming to a problem, right? Vendor collects all the data, vendor can prove the integrity and authenticity and stuff like that. So instead of trusting the authority and instead of paying for a certificate, now you have to have a vendor. Could be a trust issue, right? You don't know what vendor is doing, how he is authenticating the person, how is he storing the audit trail data. He may provide you visual appearance of audit trail as a last page of the signed document, but how would you interpret it? They don't give you specification, they don't give you machine-readable data that actually can help you to do that. And there is an interoperability issue as well. You have to choose, you as an initiator of the signing process, have to choose the tool for the signer. And even if you trust the vendor, your signer might not, right? So it's about choosing a tool and about trusting the vendor instead of trusting technology. And also, at some point in the future, the vendor might not show up at the court to prove that that actually happened 20 years ago because he might be out of the business. Who knows, right? And also there is this issue about like every vendor interprets differently what is a change on a document. You know, adding at the last page the audit trail, well, is it a change to the document? Is it not? If you are adding your name or company name during the signing process, is it a change to the document? Is it allowed or not? So we have technical concepts to do that. However, these vendors might implement it and interpret it a little bit differently. Okay, and that brings us to this proposal, document-based electronic signature. With Foxit, brought this to the table because we believe that there has to be a better way. There has to be an interoperable way of providing these workflows. We believe that every data that are part of the workflow should be in an easy and verifiable way stored within the document. All the data would travel with the document, and every user would be able to use the tool of his choice to do even signing or verification or validation, right? So we start with a document that has to be signed, PDF, and we end with a document that is signed, digitally signed PDF. Workflow, based on your business needs, could be integrated in a document upfront. We're supporting different type of identities, and all information are part of the document, as I said. We are offering and introducing standardized data structures and, of course, backward compatibility. So anyone unaware of this new concept, opening the file, will be just able to open the file. It's a PDF file. No miracle in it. And with that, we actually brought this proposal to the table of the PDF Association. Let me use one allowed slide for a pinch about Foxit and why. I like to use this as a why we brought this to the table. We are world's #2 PDF provider. We're doing all kinds of various applications, tools, services. We do PDF editing, conversion, signing, digital signing, commenting on mobile, cloud, desktop, wherever. We have a powerful SDK which powers a lot of tools you may not even know, but maybe the document, PDF document you opened was opened by Foxit-powered tool. So we have about 5 million, is it? Yeah, customers, about 700 million users worldwide. And what is more important, we have employees, around 800 employees, which of 400 are engineers, so very engineering-focused organization. And we also have our signing and digital signing solutions, as I said. And we started to offer them and quickly realized that there might be some gap on the market and we have to fill it, and we cannot fill it by ourselves. We need a community effort. That's why we brought this proposal to PDF Association 1 year ago. We decided that we would be offering this as an extension to PDF, not ISO standard. We believe that we need the community to join the party, I would say. and every small to larger vendor should be able to easily implement this. We also upfront decided that we want to have some, we did some high-level decision at the beginning. Like I said, the document has to be digitally signed at the end, so the mass stuff I was talking about. We also decided that we would leverage Acroform functionality, so no annotations, no markups outside of PDF. Acroforms are here to do the job, let's use them. Anyway, digital signature field is Acroform field anyway, so. And we also upfront decided that audit trail should and shall be machine readable and protected. And we decided that we would cover all these use cases that are written down, self-signing, transaction-based signing, and also we decided that we need to have a way how to control and audit the data that are stored in a PDF. We brought this to the PDF Association, and we did have large amount of discussions within TWG, and we came up with proposal that is on the table now and that we are finalizing, I would say. So technical details, it is all perfectly aligned with the existing concept of digital signatures in PDF. So we can use certificate signatures, yes, no problem with that. Can apply multiple approval signatures, yes, absolutely. We can apply timestamp signatures, yes. We are compatible with PARES, QES, and other standards, yes. So we are really only extending the PDF that with the data that should actually make our life more interoperable. The data that everybody needs to read even after the document was signed in 20 years. So we are extending the PDF specification as it is by defining a signer entity, by extending the Acroform fields a little bit, and by attaching audit trail information in a machine-readable form. And we are also providing some validation provisions to that. Before we dive into more technical things, let me just summarize what the usual workflow looks like. So, initiator, that's a real person or system or whatever, prepares a document, identifies signers, who are the parties that I require the document to be signed by. He defines an order in which they are required to sign the work, right, the document. And he defines also fields, because you know how signatures work, right? You get a paper, you have to fill your name in it on some specific place, you even enter a date, and then you apply signature. And there may be multiple of those fields available for you to actually enter. Then signers opens the document, authenticates himself, fills the fields, and applies the signature or multiple signatures to required fields. And at the end, and this is very important, everybody wants to collect documents, the final documents. Everybody wants and needs to be able to validate that that happened in the order in which it should happen and should archive it. So this is very important because sometimes we think that by signing the document, the job is done. No, it's not. In 10 years, in 7 years, you would need to dig your archive for a document signed by a certain person, and you'd had trouble to do that unless you name your file names with a name or things like that. So we need to have this data in a proper structure in a PDF, in a, I'd call machine-readable way, so you can run small script that would find you all the contracts signed by myself, for example, right? So this is the usual workflow. And how we go about doing it. So, as I said, we're providing an extension to PDF in form of technical note, and we believe it's going to be published via PDF Association. We don't want to bring it to ISO because we want that to be available to as many people as possible. It might end up at ISO at some point, but this is just a concept that the community agrees on would be a good thing to do. So we are extending document catalog dictionary by this document-based electronic signature dictionary. We would define new structures or entity called signer, and you can define multiple signers. Actually, there's a table from PDF specification. Whoever is familiar with PDF spec, this is how that looks like. Signer, again, it's a pointer to another dictionary. We'll speak about it later. And we are perfectly compatible with timestamp certificate signatures, and also even the smaller features that you might not even know or recognize, like DocMDP, FieldMDP, permissions that are known in digital signature concept in PDF already. So we are defining signer. What the signer means. And now I'd like to say also a little bit about our thinking. When we brought this to the table, and I have to emphasize this, when we brought this to the table, we had our own vision how this might work, right? So we thought, well, signer might be a real person. Imagine Roman is signing something, right? But during the discussions, during the collaborative process, I really want to point out is so important. And PDF Association was very good at facilitating this, and we got right people to the room. Basically, we quickly realized that the signer isn't that easy to describe as an entity. And from, envisioning signer as a real person, we quickly realized that it's more of a role rather than signer. So imagine you have a standard landlord-tenant contract, right? And you are a company that owns hundreds of apartments. You have your own contract template. You don't want to identify signer in advance by name. It's just tenant, right? And whatever the tenant enters, it's up to him. Important is to get the data out after the signature is applied. So we quickly realized that this is probably the better concept to look at structures, more abstract models that would allow us to expand, not just us, but everybody, to bring their own business proposition, different values, I'd say, different implementations, different ways of looking at these abstract structures. And it's very important. So signer is it's a dictionary, obviously. You may have multiple signers. So back then in document-based digital signature dictionary, you might have one or multiple signers. And signer is identified by a human readable representation of the name. And we have also some private message, some attributes around that. We may require that need to speed up a bit, yeah. Require that at the beginning that this signer needs to use his own certificate and stuff like that, small things. But most importantly, we realized that how the signer is authenticated is important. And for that, again, at the beginning, we thought the authentication, we would just list of known method for authentication. We would just use OAuth 2 as a known method and would be fine, right? Because that's what works in our implementation. However, there are zillions of different standards, how you may define identity, remote identity, right? You just cannot really keep up. That's why we, again, decided that authentication method would be in a form of handler. Right? We know that from PDF spec. And it's open for implementers. But you have to provide some way for other implementers to actually join you in supporting this authentication method. Let's say Foxit comes up with their own authentication of signers against their own cloud. And we have to give away the way how others can actually authenticate the real person against our infrastructure. So this is kind of open-ended structure that we encourage you to use to do your own authentication methods and ways of identifying signers. Of course, we also wanted to extend a little bit of fields. We used the Acroforms, as I mentioned, and we simply add some predefined values that are used in signature workflows: title, company name, email, initial signatures, and stuff like that. And we also mandate that whenever a signature is applied, I mean, if you have initials on each page and then full signature at the last page, you want all those to be bound together, not with multiple signatures, but you are using the concept of a way how we bind the value of that would be shared, the value of digital signature dictionary that would be shared between all those signature fields, basically, right? And it's very important to mention that we are keeping a close eye on the work John is doing in his Normex, the technical working group, because we believe that actually the form field and the way he is describing the new forms is very important and can actually be another business potential for expanding this work a little later, because he's coming up with schemes and so on. I'm not going to talk too much about it, so let's go further. And the most important, and I'm afraid I didn't keep too much time to this, but we needed to have an audit trail, and we thought a lot about how we, how we make the audit trail happen. So we had these straightforward ideas, PDF-based dictionaries with attaching log files in a native format, audit trail handler perhaps. We couldn't find good way of expressing the audit trail data. Luckily, around the same time, C2PA, Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, came up with their own first specification, open specification. They have different task, goal. They actually are trying to solve the problem of fake news, or you basically have an asset image, you do changes on it, and every change on the asset is digitally signed, and the data about actions made on the asset are stored. Which is, you can track the image back to origin. You can also mathematically, verify that all these things happen there. It's JSON-based. And we realize it works for us very well, and actually it's huge, a huge effort they're doing. Big companies are part of that: BBC, Microsoft, Adobe, ARM, Intel, and so on. So it has to be good, right? But it very well serves for our needs. And technically speaking, they produce a JSON file with a manifest, and manifest contains a claim and a bunch of actions that are happening on the asset. In our case, we extended this with our own PDF-specific actions related to authenticity, whenever a document was opened, read, and signed. Again, the potential of use of C2PA specific specification is endless, and I'm actually very happy that we jumped on this plane, because it immediately opens so much potential, so much things you can do in advance. This is machine-readable thing, right? And so you can store whatever basically you want in it. So it's very open to your implementations, specifics. It's digitally signed, so it can, in theory, live outside of the document. Somehow you can inspect it without actually trying to be, or without needing to have a heavy PDF library and so on, because it's attached to the PDF file via attachment annotation. That's what C2PA actually requires us to do. So C2PA solves the problem of standard media, images, videos, but they also talk a bit about PDF files. However, this would be the first use case for them when it is the format is used in a way that actually wasn't meant to be. But yeah, we are talking with them, and we know that this is the right way of proceeding. And it really opens a lot of new doors for implementations and for being very open and even very specific. And everybody gets the benefit out of it, because at the end, you get machine-readable data. Every customer can, signer can validate without without a need to trust into a vendor who is providing that. So now what? At the moment, the document sits inside of the digital signature TWG. It's a document, so it is very close to what we know from PDF specification. Its extension, it's not long, should be very easy to implement. I encourage everybody who is providing services or building product around signature workflows. This is the right way, I believe. Convince me I'm wrong. We obviously are running this through the PDF Association, so PDF Association has to ballot it, approve it, so all the members of PDF Associations will get a chance to comment and provide feedback. We believe in this collaborative process and community-driven approach. And what I can also promise is that Foxit is already providing an implementation. Part of those implementations are already in our products, but not to full extent. And we also will provide public repo with some examples and proof of concepts, and we'll also publish our authentication policy. Will it go to ISO? I don't know. If community decides it's worth to put it in front of ISO, with no objections. At the moment, our goal is to actually give it to as many implementers as possible, because that's what we believe should happen. And version 2, yes, we are looking at some other features that might be part of it, and we are also looking at ways how to extend it, because this doesn't stop here, of course. It's just first step to be more interoperable, not to have data in their own format in your enclosed environment. Give those data to people, give them those workflow informations and audit trails in a way that they can manage them effectively and properly.